Hello, I'm Dr. Lisa Burkhart-Worley, along with Dr. Michelle Burden and Renee Rollins, and welcome to Pop Talk. We're the show where you never know what topics might pop up. Well, this week is very special because we're taping the programs at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention, and we're at the Expo today, a day before it opens, so you might hear some noise behind us of people moving things around. But we're just excited to be here. We're thankful to Overcomers TV as well as Mike Lindell for making this possible. And our first guest today is Gaylyn Williams. Gaylyn is the Executive Director of Relationship Resources. She's an award-winning author of 41 books. The book we plan to talk about today is called, and I love this title, All Stressed Up and Everywhere to Go. Have you ever felt like that? You're all stressed up and everywhere to go. It's a book that she wrote with her father, Dr. Ken Williams. And stress is such a great topic, Gaylyn. I mean, we're all stressed out. Now, we're here at NRB and we say we're not stressed, but we are, because we're on a very tight schedule. So this presents some stress as well, but every day has its stress. So why do you think we're so stressed out, especially in this country?
Why? Because, well, partly it's because we try to do too much. We expect too much of ourselves. I've heard many people say, I'd rather burn out than rest out. Well, either way, you're out. So I want to run the long haul. But yeah, there's just so much going on in our lives.
Is there any way to get out of that stress if there's that much? Do we need to just cut some things out?
Well, there are some principles that we can work through that help us with our stress. And those are ones that I've been teaching people, but I use them for my own life when I start to get stressed.
Okay.
When I remember, when I'm not too stressed to use them.
Well, you can't admit to that because you wrote a book about this.
No, I do still use the principles because they work.
Yes.
You know, before you wrote this book, you trained, and we were talking about this before we started taping, really not just 50,000, but close to 100,000 people, right? For how to manage stress effectively. So I want to talk about that. Why did you decide, after doing all of that, to actually write a book? Tell us about that. What was the experience?
Well, because the principles were only available to people if they went to a workshop, and I really wanted to make them available to anyone to be able to work through it, because I did it as a workbook so that people can work through the steps on their own whenever they want to.
That helps to focus. You know, when you have a workbook and you're reading through something, I think that God really speaks in those moments, doesn't he?
Writing things down, accountability. I know I love to write things down, especially when something speaks to me, or maybe there's something I want to get rid of, a bad habit. I'll write that down and say, okay, this is it. I'm not going to do this anymore. You know. So I think that does help.
Yes. So what have you found to be some of the health issues that can be caused by stress? Because we know obviously it affects health. So what are some of those that you found?
Well, let me just say that most health issues they've found have to do with stress. They're either caused by stress or they're made worse by stress. So it's just about everything.
Wow.
Yeah, so...
You know, I'm an overachiever. Nobody believes that, I know, but it is. Ever since I was a little girl, I've just always done more than maybe what I can handle, and I do get stressed out. In fact, at one point in my life, I struggled with anxiety, had some panic attacks. I realized that I had to let go of some things, and so I think that's a byproduct of stress. Yeah. So can you tell us about some ways that we can reduce the stress in our lives?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to learn what stress is and how it affects us, because so many of us think that it's the stress situation, it's the thing that happens that causes us to be stressed, but it's partly that, but that's just a little piece of it. It's what we bring into the situation that causes stress to be much worse. So it's our internal stress. It's things like our expectations, our attitudes, our sore spots. So it's places where we have wounds, where we have fear or resentment or unforgiveness, those types of things, or anxiety. Those types of things can make any stress situation that we go into much worse.
How do we identify those though? I mean, how do we know? Sometimes I think we act out of what we know and how we've grown up. How do we identify them?
Well, I think it's important to just take the time to like you were talking about, writing it down. And so one of the first things that I have people do is write down all the different ways that they're stressed, and there's a whole bunch of different categories. But I think it's important to write them down. And like when I go through this whole process on my own, I'm always surprised that most of the things on my list are these internal stressors, not the external ones.
Wow.
Really? Wow.
Even though I've had a lot of serious external ones.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, we need to pay attention to that, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, it's getting down to the heart of it, isn't it? When you write those things down and you really ask the Holy Spirit, okay, what is going on here on the inside that I'm wounded in, right? That I need to recognize that you're bringing to me right now in this moment, Lord. And that is such a good word. And you've actually published 52, one for every week.
Exactly.
Stress management tips. So I just want to talk about, if you could tell us a story of someone that you've really helped. I mean, this is completely free. Give us a testimony about how this has helped someone.
Well, the one that initially comes to my mind is there was a pastor who was just really overstressed, and I don't think I realized how overstressed he was. And so I sent him a copy of my book, and I found out later that he was on the verge of suicide. Wow. And it stopped him from taking his life because it gave him hope again.
That's huge.
So that's like the most extreme.
Yes. But that is a ministry. What a story.
And how do you train people? How does it work?
Well, it's a workshop, so people have to come ready to work. And it's 3 to 6 hours, depending on how much time I have. And I do them by Zoom as well. Mostly for people in Israel, I do them by Zoom. But people come and we do some teaching, but a lot of it is them just working through each one of the steps.
And you wrote this with your father. Can you talk about working with your dad on a book?
Oh, we had really enjoyed it. We had fun. We actually traveled around the world training missionaries before he passed away.
Yeah. Wow, that must have been wonderful. Yeah.
Did you write it with him in Israel?
No.
I was just curious.
We never went to Israel together.
Oh.
And Glenn, you did mention Israel, so I do want to shift to that subject for just a minute. We're all supporters of Israel here at Pearls of Promise Ministry, and you live in Israel part-time, which I think is incredible. I love that. In fact, you've written a book about Israel called Explore God's Heart for Israel. So can you talk about why you wrote the book and about why we should have a heart for Israel?
Well, why we should have a heart for Israel is because God does.
That's right.
But I was raised believing that God had laid Israel aside, and now the church has taken over all of the promises, and yes, we can claim them, but they still are for Israel. But so that's replacement theology, and that's a type of anti-Semitism. Yes. But there's so many Christians that believe that.
Right.
And so as I started studying the scriptures, then I started recognizing, wow, there's so much in there that the Bible has to say.
It's good that you're speaking to people about that, but why did you end up moving to Israel part of the time?
Well, after I went there the first time in 1999, I knew I wanted to live there as much as I could, and it wasn't until 2016 that I went back and then started living there half the time.
So were you there October 7th, 2023?
No, I wasn't. I have a lot of friends that were there though.
But you probably have been there since then. How has it changed?
Well, there's definitely a lot more stress in the air.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of, so much trauma. So much trauma and hurt and pain. The believers, though, are really hanging in there, and they are doing, you know, it's amazing how they're doing.
Well, I love it that you live there part-time. I think we'd all like to live there
Yes.
part-time.
Yes.
We love Israel. I'm ready to go back. It's been since 2023 that I've been there. I went twice, and Michelle and I actually went together on one trip, and I think it's time. I'm ready to go back. I love the land. My dad was Jewish, and so I just have a heart for that. Well, thank you so much, Gaylyn, for sharing about, first of all, your love of Israel here, but also about how to manage stress. We all need that help, and you can find out more about Gaylyn's outreach at her website, relationshipresources.org, and if you sign up at her website, listen to this, you can receive 52 stress management tips. Her book with her father, Dr. Ken Williams, is once again called All Stressed Up and Everywhere to Go. You can find that book on Amazon.com.
Our next guest here at the NRB convention is a friend of ours who lives in Israel, Rabbi Rami Goldberg. Rabbi Rami works with a well-known outreach called Israel 365. Rabbi Rami was going to be on the program last year, but he broke his wrist right before he was scheduled to be here, so we're really glad that you're here today with us. Rabbi Rami is Israel 365's Director of Strategic Relationships. He holds an ordination from Yeshiva University and a master's from the Azrieli School of Jewish Education. Rabbi Rami passionately lectures on business ethics to university students, focusing on ethical practices and wealth management. Tell the audience, Rami, about Israel 365, and which was founded by another Orthodox rabbi, Tuli Weiss.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on. So Israel 365 is a ministry that focuses on connecting Jews and Christians to each other and to the land of Israel. All too often, and so much of what we've seen, particularly in the last 2 years, but well before that, is that Jews and Christians are staying in their silos. Obviously, it's been a rocky, rough past over the last 2,000 years, but we're living in times where it's critical that we come together. We share so many values, and there's so many things. There's going to be disagreements, and there are things that neither of us are going to agree upon, but that's okay. Let's find those areas of connectivity and connection that we can go ahead and we can work together. So that's our overall mission. Everything we do focuses and centers around education in one way or another.
We need to see more of this going on, I think.
Absolutely.
Just connecting like this, bridging the gap that exists. I'm so glad you guys, I'm thankful for you guys, and I feel like Ad and I connected us all with you, and I just think it's great. I give him all the praise and honor for that. And we've had a couple of times where my husband and I celebrated Shabbat with you and in Dallas, and it was so wonderful to hear you play the guitar and just celebrate the Shabbat. Is that one of the ways that you connect with Christians? And if so, tell us about that and how you go about that.
Yeah, so absolutely. When it comes to the Shabbat, when Christians come, their minds are blown. I mean, it's just an unbelievable awakening where they're like, wait a second, this is what it means to honor the Shabbat. And they come to a Shabbat dinner and they see a traditional Shabbat meal, and they have challah, and they drink the grape juice, and they see the blessing of the children, and it's like, wow, this is what it was meant to be. And so we run different Shabbat programs whenever we have an opportunity. Actually, this Shabbat here in Nashville, we'll be having about 150 or so Jews and Christians sit down together for a Shabbat meal, and it's really just an amazing moment of connection that we can have.
I wanted to say real quick, the last time I was at the Shabbat dinner, I sat next to a gentleman, a rabbi, who performs circumcisions. But I didn't know quite how to engage with him. I wasn't sure what questions to ask him.
Right, so you might want to leave some of those questions for another time, not at the Shabbat dinner table.
Exactly.
You have Israel 365 branches in many cities in the United States, which is amazing. So what are the purposes of those branches, And how do you actually stage events in the United States for Israel 365?
So our branches and our branch, branch strategy, as we'll call it, is really, really critical that we actually connect with people here in America. And yes, we can fly in and be here and be present, but there's nothing like actually being on the ground. So we opened up about 3 years ago our Dallas branch, and that's been unbelievably successful. We have a wonderful woman by the name of Sharon Michaels who leads that branch, and any opportunity that we have to have different events, we do it. She hosts people all the time. We have Shabbat meals, and different rabbis from the organization come in, lecture and speak and give classes and Torah classes, and it's really, really wonderful. Our second major branch, we have a couple of other minor branches, but is actually going to be here in Nashville, and it's launching over this week. We had an event last night where, and this Shabbat in the synagogue here, we're going to be having launching that branch, and it's really been so warmly welcomed so far. Because I think, as I said about the Shabbat, so many Christians want to have that moment of connection.
Yes.
And the only way to do that is by being present.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. So one of the things that Israel 365 has done in the past is provide tours to Israel. Has that started up again? And what are the conditions like in Israel now over the 2 years after the events of October 7th, 2023, when Israel was attacked by the terrorist group Hamas?
So you say, has it started up again? We started after October 7th. I think we had we might have had one tour beforehand, but since October 7th, we started bringing young Christian leaders because we recognized, our generations, okay, it's Christians that are my age and older. They support the land of Israel, but we are seeing the young people are not as connected, and we need to go ahead and we need to have much more connection. So every twice a year now, in May and November, we bring over young Christian leaders between the ages of 22 and 35 to Israel. In addition, we do have what we like to call church lady tours, where we bring.
Would that be us?
So you're more than welcome and invited. We have I can go through all the different times, but we're having them coming up. So we have those tours, and we also brought over a conservative influencer trip this past summer, and looking to do another one of those. So we're going full steam ahead as far as we take all the safety precautions, but most of the time there's nothing to be nervous about. The news really tries to focus in on the worst things that are happening when 99% of the country is perfectly safe to travel to.
That's great news.
Okay, I'm going to throw in a question before my question because of course I hear this maybe New Jersey accent. Where are you from?
So I was born and raised in West Orange, New Jersey. A shout out.
Yes.
And I made Aliyah and moved to Israel just about this summer. It'll be 20 years ago. And so my son was a mere 1 year old at that point, and now he's 20 and entering the IDF in 2 weeks. So
Tell us about what drew you to Israel. I mean, I think most Jewish people want to go, but tell us.
So I wish that were true, that most Jewish people want to go. We're praying for many of the Jewish people to want to move to the land of Israel who are outside the land. But it's biblical prophecy. I mean, we are seeing the times of the ingathering of the exile. This is the time. It's one of the challenges that we have is we think that the prophecies are some like Disney, Disney TV show that everything's going to be angelic and perfect, and we are living in biblical times. And if I could share just one quick story, is a couple of years ago I ran in the Jerusalem Marathon, and when I ran the Jerusalem Marathon, I ran with a couple of younger boys from the local yeshiva, 18-year-olds, and I said to them, just realize when we're running through the streets of Jerusalem, we are fulfilling the prophecies of Zechariah, that the boys and girls are going to be playing in the streets of Jerusalem, and it's really just something amazing. And so to not be part of that and to be on the sidelines of Jewish history, how could I do that?
Right.
Yes, I felt like that when I went into the Jewish Quarter, when Michelle and I were on a trip to Israel. We kept asking to go in the Jewish Quarter, and nobody would take us, and so finally he said, we're going to do that in our free time, and we went, and it reminded me of Zechariah. It was like kids were playing in the courtyard. It was like bright and cheery and happy, peaceful. it was like, this is it. It's happening right now.
That scripture is actually engraved in one of the stones in the courtyard in the old city, because that's the courtyard that the kids actually play in. There's a school right there, and so
That is
it's
so
really
cool.
amazing.
I love it. I was so glad to have witnessed that. And there's a lot of talk about a two-state solution in Israel, but you guys have taken a stand on the fact that God set certain boundaries, right, for the land of Israel, and it should not be divided. Can you speak about that?
Yeah, so you say there's a lot of talk about two-state solution in Israel. Actually, in Israel, the two-state solution is dead. It was dead on arrival, but now there's no question. Post October 7th, everybody and their mother has really turned and said, no, this is not going to happen. We are now, kind of. There's been certainly an awakening on the Israeli side of things. Israelis are much more attuned to the fact that we have enemies. Americans have a hard time thinking about enemies because you got Canada to your north, which is not very dangerous, and Mexico to the south. So there's no enemies here. So it's very difficult for the American mind to recognize what that means to have enemies within a couple of short miles from your house.
Yes. We're beginning to learn that though here in the United States, yes, but in no way to the level of what Israel is going through. We are constantly praying for the peace of Jerusalem.
And we were just at a prayer breakfast this morning,
Yes, we
praying
were.
for Israel, and that's why we're all in our booth.
Yes.
We wanted to mention that, to support Israel.
It's amazing, and it's so appreciative. Every time I'm walking around the old city and I see tours there, I walk over and I say thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being the ministry of presence to be in the land with us.
Yes.
How can we pray for your ministry? I know we were going to touch on the topic of business and how you use that within Israel 365, but we would like to know how we can really pray and our audience can really lift up Israel 365.
Yeah, so Israel 365 has so many different projects that need to be prayed into, and when it comes, I mentioned the young Christian leaders. I mean, this is not an inexpensive endeavor, and it's people who support and recognize, what's going to be with the next generation. And to be honest, I'm not nervous about the next generation in Israel. My children and their friends, they see that purpose. It's the kids here that we need to bring to Israel, that we need to connect and show them the Bible where it happened. And that's really something to pray that there's an awakening amongst the young people, that they should recognize God's land, and that God's land eyes are on the land from the beginning of the year to the end of the year.
Absolutely.
So I think that's really an area of prayer that's so necessary.
It really is.
And you do a podcast about biblical money. I wanted to get to that because that's near and dear to your heart. So can you talk about that? You have a heart for handling money the biblical way.
Amen.
I'm a Jew, right? Jews are good with money, right? No, I'm just
No, that's a trope.
That's a trope, all right? No, but in all seriousness, right? Meaning, even in the Bible, meaning, why is Abraham blessed with money, right? Why wasn't he? Why didn't he give away all his money? The reason is that the nations of the world would come to Abraham for instruction. That's what it's there for, and that's how it should be. That's how it should be used properly. But I started a podcast a little over a year ago called Biblical Money, where I interview CEOs and executives and speak to them about business and the Bible and faith and finance, with the idea of bringing out their wisdom such that people can understand how making money is not something that's evil and it's not something that's bad, but it needs to be done in the right context, and you need to see heroes of people who have actually made money in the proper type of way. So I really interview all sorts of different people that have kept their faith through their making of money, and speaking to them about some of the challenges that come with it, and opportunities to give and to minister to people and to give to people once they've been successful and God has blessed them. So that's a little bit about my podcast.
Very cool.
We're all about that. My husband and I used to work with a ministry called Crown Ministry. Not work with them, but we used to teach their Bible study. And before we ever started the Bible study, we'd get on our knees and we'd pray, and we had to recite a Bible verse, a lot of times from the Old Testament. So I'm with you on this. I think we need to handle our money biblically. All right. Well, thanks, Rabbi Rami. I'm so glad that you joined us on Pop Talk Television. If you want to know more about Israel 365, you can go to their website, Israel365.com, and you can see some of Rabbi Rami's videos on biblical money at the Israel 365 YouTube channel.
We would love for you to connect with us here at Pearls of Promise Ministries. You can email us at info@pearlsofpromiseministries.com. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on X at Pop Talk Media or at Pearls of Promise. We're on Instagram at Pop_Ministries, and check out all of our YouTube channel where you watch all of our past Pop Talk award-winning television shows, radio shows, as well as our award-winning documentaries.
So that is our show from the National Religious Broadcasters Convention. We're Pop Talk. We're just ordinary girls
Who God turned into pearls. Have a blessed week, everybody.
Overcomers TV, streaming now. Download our app on your smart TV, Roku, Apple TV, and more.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, MyPillow mattresses and MyPillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, regular $69.98, now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard MyPillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale, only $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.
In 1953, Jack Drake set up a borrowed tent on donated land just east of the Navajo Nation. There, Four Corners Home for Children was born. Since then, over 2,000 children have passed through our doors, and there's always room for more. Our House of Hope offers shelter to children in crisis. The House of Faith is a long-term home where children can grow and thrive. Our House of Grace provides life skills training to older teenagers as they work toward independence. The Four Corners Academy for Excellence provides educational opportunities in an environment conducive to learning. Navajo Nation Outreach provides for the needs of the Navajo people. Addiction recovery, food distribution, providing Bibles in the Navajo language. Four Corners Home for Children, serving in Navajo land since 1953, a place for children to call home.